Yo! Welcome back to One More Mana. My name is Derik, and today I am still going to be talking about Baldur's Gate. I feel like a lot of people have moved past it already. The fact that we are, I think, well into Double Master spoiler season, but Baldur's Gate's been here for a week, so I'm gonna move my own pace. I can't move at the pace of spoiler season. Spoiler season never stops, but I do. I'm gonna need a break. I need to really digest what I got in Baldur's Gate, what we got in Baldur's Gate, because this stuff is beautiful. It's one of my favorite sets in a very long time. While the reprint value is not necessarily there, I feel like there's not a lot of high money cards. I don't think that's a bad thing as far as looking for the singles you want, because there's a lot of really powerful cards in this set, but they're used in much more niche ways. You don't have the Hull Breachers and the Jessica's Wills of the world in this set, but we have a lot of really cool tools that we can use, and I cannot wait to kind of just dive into them and really take the time to appreciate this set. And I think I speak for a lot of people. Y'all know I love flashy stuff. And I think the flashiest cycle of cards in this set are the non-legendary Elder Dragons. These things are amazing. There's so many awesome ways to use them. And I know I'm someone, when I open a card like this, if I did a draft or if I crack some packs and I open, especially if it's one of the pretty art versions of one of these cards, I'm going to want to brew around it. And because it's not legendary, that can be a little tricky. So what I want to use this video for is to talk about why I love each of these non-legendary Elder Dragons, why I think they're awesome, talk about different types of decks that can best utilize them, and use examples of commanders that you might be able to either build around them or put into your existing decks to really take advantage, because I know everybody out there, when you crack one of these, you want to play with it, and since it's not legendary, we've got to get a little creative to find the best ways to take advantage of them. If you want any of these dragons or any of the cool commanders that they can go into, or just any of the beautiful stuff in Baldur's Gate, or you're just already ready for Double Masters, one, respect to you, I really need to figure out how to think that fast. But either way, hit up TCG Player. TCG Player is amazing. They're gonna have anything you're looking for, especially now. Every card's got 17 arts, and you have to be some sort of rocket scientist to figure out what art comes in what pack. Just make it simple for yourself. Hit up TCG Player, pick the specific art foiling, and if you use the affiliate link down in the description below, you could help support the channel. And speaking of supporting the channel, if you want to help support the channel, check out Into the AM as well. If you're looking for some real super comfy, nice clothes, Into the AM has what you're looking for. All types of cool designs, even some plain stuff if you're trying to be a little bit more low key. And look, nobody knows better comfort than Ken, so I'm gonna let Ken say it himself right now. Hey guys, this is Ken. This is 100% Ken for sure. And when I flip tables, I like to use Into the AM as my preferred clothing choice. Into the AM, flipping tables near you. See, Ken said it. It's science. You heard it for yourself. That's the way it is. So if you want to listen to the man himself, check out Into the AM. Check out the affiliate link below. We always do appreciate all the help. But let's jump into this sort of list, not really list. We're gonna go Wooburg order, talk about these dragons and where I think they can best be used. So we'll start with the W in Wooburg for white. And normally this is a side, but I love this one. It's Ancient Gold Dragon. Ancient Gold Dragon is awesome. They basically, this whole cycle of dragons has the similar text of when it deals combat damage, you roll a d20 and get some sort of effect equal to the result. I already love the randomization aspect to this. I love how there's risk and reward. You don't know what you're going to get every time. It's not guaranteed to break the game, but there's a chance it can, and I love that. They're all relatively high CMC. They just do everything I want. They're broken effects on high mana value cards. Getting back to Ancient Gold Dragon, this thing is awesome. You get to make blue tokens based on the amount of your d20 roll after it deals damage. So I think white token decks are something that I want to see more of, leaning towards white. A lot of times when you see token decks, if they involve white, it's either you got some Boros options, you have a lot of Selesnya options, or you might even have Naya. But white itself, I think, is a really cool color to get token production and get some of these token effects. I've looked at trying to build mono white tokens, and it's definitely possible, but I like some of these these bigger effects. But one thing I love most about Ancient Gold Dragon and what it represents is, with token decks, one of the biggest issues you can have is you accrue these tokens and get all these effects, and so much of what's in a token deck is set up. You get your parallel lives or your anointed processions and all these effects, and you kind of build up a board over time, and then you use all the effects to just blow up your board size. But if someone board wipes, it can take forever. And a lot of the token decks I play, board wipes, if you don't have protection, essentially just end the game for you. It's very hard to rebuild as fast as other decks do. These are the token decks I play, and I feel like Ancient Gold Dragon literally represents, at the top end of the curve, an entire game reset for you, where you can have been board wiped, everything wiped out, but if you can get this Gold Dragon out and connect, you can completely repopulate your board of tokens. If you have an Impact Tremors or a Perforos out, bam, you're doing tons of damage. I love what it represents at the top end of a token deck, whereas you're always going to have the Crater of Hoofs and finishers and stuff like that. I love having a board rebuild in there, and I feel like we have like mana sinks and stuff that can do it, but I love what this represents for that. And I think a couple decks that it would fit wonderfully into one of the more newer commanders that we've seen. Speaking of Crater Hoof, it's basically a hoof in the command zone. It's Jetmir, the little demon cat. It's again the most redundant creature type of all time, but Jetmir is amazing. It's very, very powerful, and it's so good in this type of deck because in Jetmir you need a large number of creatures. On average, if you're hitting a 10, that's already triggering all of Jetmir's abilities, and it's a great board reset. If everything goes south, you still have this full board reset to take advantage of Jetmir. And another commander I would love this in is one of my favorite legendary creatures of all time. She's going to be coming back soon, and not a super popular commander, but beautiful nonetheless. It's Elish Norn. I love Elish Norn, and that's kind of the inspiration for me even wanting to look at mono white tokens. And I think this is a really cool, Elish Norn is a 7 CMC commander in mono white. It's a very powerful, scary effect, but it's by no means broken as a commander in that sense, because you're mono white. You're probably only going to cast it once. But I love what that represents. It's a big splashy effect. If you have this, you're going to be spending so much mana. It's by no means broken. 14 mana between the Elish Norn and the Gold Dragon. But if you can get this going, again, it represents top of the curve payoff in the big battle cruiser type Magic games that I like to play. So I really love it. I love its role in really any deck, but in those two specifically, it can really do work. Now let's go to the blue. The U. I was going to say the blue in Wooburg. The U in Wooburg for blue, that is going to be the Ancient Silver Dragon. This one, draw cards. This is insane, the fact that you just roll a d20 and draw that many cards. Thankfully, it is at 8 CMC. Thankfully, you are going to have to go ahead and connect with combat damage. Now, the first thing this may lean towards is like Reanimator strategies and cheating the mana cost. I'm going to save that for later because there's some commanders where I also think it can fit into that I'll mention. But in general, I want to say that I want to find some non-cheaty ways to use it, even though obviously the reanimation strategies will probably be the most popular. I want to focus on decks that draw cards as part of their game plan. Not just every deck wants to draw cards, but I'm talking about like the whole focus is to draw cards. And that's what I think the decks will best take advantage of it. If I only had one copy of this, yeah, I can go into any blue deck or any reanimator strategy and be huge value to draw a ton of cards, but I want a deck that really cares. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So one example is the beautiful Locust God, the Buggyman, the first Buggyman. Oh, I love the Buggyman. This is a deck that literally wants you to, the payoff is drawing cards. You draw cards to get the tokens. This is an awesome, now most Buggyman decks are trying to be really low to the ground, hyper efficient. Your average CMC is probably below 3 easily. You're trying to ramp out fast, get all these wheels. I love, Ken plays a much more powerful yet casual Buggyman deck that I love to play against. The Buggyman can be broken so easily. I love seeing it just below that level. And I think Ancient Silver Dragon, when played just hard cast, basically represents that. It's the top end of the curve, 8 mana. You gotta wait to swing if you don't give it haste. It's a really cool top effect where I've found in my own Buggyman deck, having a few 6, 7, and 8 drops that are big and splashy slows the deck down enough to where it never feels like it's getting out of control and being unfair. And I really love what this represents for it. Another deck that I've really wanted to build for a while, and we're getting enough cards where it's inspiring it to me, is the number of cards in hands matter type deck, where you want to draw cards not so you have more resources, but to actually care about the number of cards in your hand. So my favorite commander to represent this would be Kefnit the Mindful, which cares about having a certain number of cards in hand and playing stuff like the Sturmgeist of the world and all these different effects where its power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in your hand. This is a great top end of the curve card to have in there, where you might be able to get your no maximum hand size, 10 to 15 cards in hand, but if you get this out late game, you connect, you draw a ton of cards. All of these Sturmgeist type cards are now 20/20s or more, and you're swinging and doing something crazy. And I think it's really fun in those types of decks that focus on card draw for more than just resource accumulation. Now, the B in Wooburg, Ancient Brass Dragon, is awesome. This is the D20, and you get creatures back from graveyards equal to the total mana value for whatever you rolled. This, I do want to lean into Reanimator. I don't feel as dirty cheating this one out for Reanimator because it's part of the Reanimator family. It's on flavor. It's what it wants to do. And there's a couple of my favorite Reanimator generals that I think this shines in. One is the Mimeoplasm, which we just found out as of today, or whenever I was recording this. Mimeoplasm is getting a beautiful new reprint with new art and Double Master. So look at this. I'm with the times. I'm staying up to date. That's what I do. That's who I am. Mimeo is amazing with this card. You can go ahead and make it a copy. Basically, you're cheating. You're going to be paying 5 for Mimeo, making it a much bigger version of itself, connecting, rolling that dice, getting a bunch of the other stuff you've milled back in the process. It's a super, super awesome effect in there because it's also evasive. So you can throw, if you have your effects with all those, whatever it is, like a Galter or something, you're throwing 12 +1 counters onto a flyer so you can connect that double utility. It's going to be a blast in Mimeo builds for sure. And another one that's kind of along the same lines, you know, I love the Buggy Men. One of my favorite commanders ever printed, the Scarab God. This is going to be insane in the Scarab God. This is also going to cheat mana value because you can go ahead, basically eternalize it, get it back for 4 mana. You don't care about its power at this point in that type of build, where you're just basically getting it out. You can do it on an end step, so it has that kind of pseudo haste, connect, and then get all the other stuff you've been milling back out onto the battlefield under your control. This is, I think, of all the decks I could think of, I think it would shine the best in a Scarab God build, especially not the non-zombie build. If you're just going for the group mill, this will be an absolute all-star in one of those decks, and I think it might best take advantage of it. Now we're going to jump over to red. Yeah, this one's broken. This one is just straight up broken. Card draw is really good, I realize that, but making treasures, there are so many ways to take advantage. You're just getting a bunch of Lotus Petals off of a D20 roll, and there's so many effects that care about sacrificing and artifacts dying and having all of these resources with all this mana. This one, I understand why the price is so insane. Because you have to connect with combat damage, I do think that keeps it in check to some degree. Obviously, red is the color of haste, so you're always going to be swinging with this, basically, and any deck it's in is probably going to be swinging very fast. But I do appreciate that you have to connect, because there are so many ways to interact with this. Spot removal, fog effects, or really just having a flying blocker can work. And there are so many ways to defend against it that no matter how powerful this effect is, it's not a dockside type thing where for 2 mana, you're running out ahead where no one can stop you. This is 6 mana and you have to connect. So I love the pseudo balance in that, even though somehow this one costs less mana than the other ones. I don't understand that part of it. Either way, this is fun in any deck with red. This can be fun. I want a big dragon in any deck I play with red. I want a big dragon in any deck, period. But especially in red, I always try to throw some big splashy dragon, and this kind of fits the bill in anyone. But specifically in decks that care about either treasures or sacrificing effects or being able to cheat this in, I think that's where it's best, where you can do it repeatedly. And even if it dies, you can keep playing it over and over, because this is going to be target number 1 in a lot of games, or where you're taking so much advantage of it, it doesn't matter. The first commander is not one I love, one I have a lot of a problem with, actually. If I see it, I'm trying to kill it. But you know what? Shout out to Owen, because you love this commander, and yours is the only one that I don't dread playing against. It's Corvold. Corvold is just takes, oh my gosh. If you have, I mean, if you usually just have Corvold out, you're probably going to win anyway. But if you have Corvold with the Ancient Copper Dragon, this just it's basically game over. Because if you connect even again on average, you roll a 10. You're getting 10 treasures to allow you to draw 10 cards, throw 10 +1 counters onto Corvold, and have 10 mana to spend in the process. This is just absolutely insane, especially with the other sacking synergies that are in Corvold decks. I feel like if you are able to connect with an Ancient Copper Dragon in a Corvold deck, it's essentially game over. I don't know if at the table will be able to come back from that amount of value. Anything short of like a critical failure, rolling a 1 or a 2 or something like that, like, it's basically going to be game over. And I probably didn't need to tell Corvold players this, but like obvious, but it's just, the synergy just so over the top that it's just insane. And one of my personal favorites that I think it's a great fit in, and possibly using it a little bit more fairly, quote unquote, is Feldon to the Third Path. Feldon is tremendous. The thing I love about Feldon is cheating mana, yeah, you are reanimating it, but more importantly, you're making a token copy of it and immediately giving haste to swing. And the best part about this is targeted removal doesn't really matter much, because the original dragon's still in the graveyard. So outside of exiling your graveyard, which is, you know, slightly less common than just straight up targeted removal, you can do it every turn. So even if you go to swing, someone murders it, bam, next turn it's coming back swinging again. The repeated use of this, especially in a deck like Feldon that by itself is not the highest power level deck, getting all of these resources can be important. It can allow you to hard cast a lot of the more splashy Feldon threats. I love what this does for Feldon, and if this price ever comes down, I'm 100% picking one of these up for Feldon. I think it's just such a perfect fit. And then the last one, the G in Wooburg. I love what they did with the green one. I was terrified. I thought green was going to be something dumb, like roll a d20, get that many lands, or something just obnoxious that I wouldn't enjoy playing or playing against. And when I started playing Magic, green was my favorite color before it got so busted that I feel like I have to avoid it. And Ancient Bronze Dragon does everything I want. When you connect, you get +1 counters on up to 2 target creatures. It's either, I'll put the card on screen, 2 target creatures, your Bronze Dragon, and another creature. Either way, you get just a shit ton of +1 counters on your creatures, and it is beautiful. This is good in, I like this. I really love playing in any green deck, just a big splashy green thing, regardless of synergy. I've loved I've loved the big dinosaur. Why am I completely blanking this? In Titania, the Tarask. There we go. I've started running the Tarask in Titania. I just love like 7, 8, 9 drop big green monsters in a green deck, regardless of synergy, because it's just fun to cast big stuff, and green lets you do that. This can represent that in a lot of decks where you can just literally go off and decide, bam, I'm just going to put this in any deck, throw a bunch of +1 counters, make my shit big, and swing, which is kind of what green wants to do a lot of the time. And it really lets you do that. What I will say though is in +1 counter synergies or power matter synergies, it's going to be that much better. So if you have those +1 counter decks, I feel like it goes without saying, but there's a couple generals that I think best represent this to me. One, it is also getting a reprint. It is Rishkar. Rishkar is in the new Double Masters, I believe. One of my favorite commanders because it is this weird pseudo elf ball strategy with +1 counters. You're trying to ramp into high-end threats, and this is one of the best high-end threats because you get this, you're throwing even more +1 counters that add to your other +1 counter synergies, and it lets you get there faster because this deck is all about ramps. So you might be hitting this on turn 4, 5, 6 as opposed to whatever it is in most other decks. The synergies are just so perfect. Such a fun, stompy deck like Rishkar could end up being. I just think it's awesome in there. And the other one is recently reprinted, one of my favorite commanders of all time, Kresh Daddy. Kresh could be built to have basically both power matters and +1 counter synergies, and Ancient Bronze Dragon does everything about that. When you connect, you get all those +1 counters. Throw a chunk of them onto Kresh, throw a chunk onto a different creature, sack that other creature, and they're all going onto Kresh. All of these synergies going everywhere. I've already picked one up. This is the only dragon I've bought so far for myself. It was literally just too perfect of a fit. So that is going to wrap it up for this week's episode of kind of just my overall thoughts on these dragons, where I want to use them, where I think they could fit. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any just decks that you basically saw these and you knew where it was going, because these are the type of cards where I will want to build decks just based on how cool they are. So it's really kind of super fun to see an awesome card like this printed and just know where it's going right away. As always, a huge shout out to the patrons. We love and appreciate y'all so much. We really do. And we have tons of exciting stuff. I really hope you enjoyed the Shuffle Up and Play episode. I finally can talk about that. It was so much fun to record. And if you learn anything from watching that, just always know, just kill Ken first. That's the takeaway from this episode, that episode, in every aspect of Magic. He's one of the most lovable humans I've ever met, but kill him first. That's how we show him love. I don't know how I got on that rant, but either way, plenty of fun content to come. Until then, I will see y'all next time.